I am Carrie Syczylo, and I'm running for House District 60 to represent Morgan, Johnson, and Monroe. And I do stand for a moratorium for data centers and small modular reactors.
My name is Ryan Kominakis. I'm also running for state representative in House District 4. That's up in the Valparaiso and Couts area. So Couts is definitely a very rural area, and Valpo's more of a city, if you guys don't know the areas. But as far as these data centers go, we have fought some off in Union Township and in Valparaiso. And nobody wants these data centers coming from the public point of view, but as far as the unions go, I'm very much a labor activist. I've been a union rep my whole life. The trade unions do want these jobs, and if they're going to be forced down our throat, then we better make damn sure that we've got good quality, safe, high-paying jobs they're going to come out of these projects.
I'm Bryce Gustafson. I'm the program organizer with the Citizens Action Coalition. I've been with CAC since 2009. Worked on probably 100 different campaigns over the years, and this has become the biggest issue that we've ever had to deal with, or at least I have ever had to deal with at CAC. We're tracking about 60 of these projects across the state. We've been contacted by about 50 communities, and as Ryan said, nobody wants these data centers. Not one of them has reached out to ask us how we'll get a data center. So, but it's been pretty all-consuming over the last couple of years, and just happy to be here.
I'm John Bartlett. I'm running for State House in District 33, which is essentially between the rural area between Muncie and the Ohio state line. I've got Blackford County, Jay County, Randolph County, some of Delaware County, and one township down in Henry County. Right now, we aren't being touched so much by data centers, other than we are talking about the county commissioners are talking about allowing them to come in. The Delaware County in particular has a commissioner who's really big on attracting them, and also some of the some of the things we're going to talk about, some of the power production for with small modular nuclear reactors, bringing those in and making Muncie a big part of that whole thing, which is possibly even more scary than the data centers. And my background, when I started working, before I moved into IT, I worked for one of the major HVAC companies, manufacturers. I was in charge of basically getting plans and specs and laying out big HVAC chiller plants and things like that for estimating and bidding, then submitting on and ordering water chillers and things like that are required or they should be required for these data centers. So that's kind of going to be my perspective on a lot of this stuff.
Well, we are in the heart of Monrovia, Indiana today. We are located at 55 South Chestnut Street here in Monrovia, and we are probably 3 miles from the Google data center here. So, Bryce, you know that we've been opposing this since it kind of started. Again, because from the very beginning, being that I like to work from foundation, our concerns, like yours, has always been our resources and how those are going to be consumed in our area. And then, the concerning part for Monrovia, and I would then turn this over for some discussion, is the non-disclosure signed by local officials and by Morgan County, which then, leads us to lack of trust and zero transparency. And so that's set our community up to absolutely mistrust all of the local leaders. And I guess like from foundationally, like when I think about that, then my next step is I want to figure out like how all this is happening. And I think it's important to talk about like, is this really normal? Like the pace of this, is this normal? I mean, have we in our lifetime ever seen technology or production of any sort move in such a rapid way? And I think that right there is enough to question this. Like, what is the hurry when we've asked you to please take a pause so that we can, as citizens, understand what's happening to our communities? I mean, we have to be able to have some knowledge so that we know how we move forward, what our path forward is. And so, yeah, I think some of what I want to talk about is just the foundational issues of all this, and what our concerns are, and how this abuse of power and extraction of rural communities, how that's happening. And that is happening because of the legislation that is written and passed by the Republicans at the state legislature, and what they're following from the top, which is the federal. And that's who's doing the harm, and I feel like it has to be named all of the time.
So I would definitely say in my communities, and even all across the region, but especially Valparaiso, Couts, and District 4, folks are very upset about their utility bills, skyrocketing, and we don't even have one. We have one tiny one in Portage that went in a while ago that was kind of nobody knew about when it happened, but we haven't had a recent one. Those have been, like I said, they've been shut down. But we do have one in Hobart, right across the border in Lake County, and another one in New Carlisle, and then one in Michigan City. All of these pro-utility company laws where they can pass their capital expenditures off onto consumers, basically at 100%. It's not right. And these legislators are screwing over regular people. They're selling out to these big corporations. We need legislators downstate with integrity that are actually going to fight for us. The guy that I'm running against, Ed Soliday, he's the Utilities Committee Chair.
Oh, nice.
And he's been in office for 20 years. He's been the author and mastermind behind every one of these laws that give the utility companies the leeway or the right to do exactly what they're doing right now. I could list a whole slew of them, but literally every single one, to mention a few, like House Bill 1007 around the data centers, and then co-sponsored SB 423 and 425 that has to do with the SMRs that John was talking about. Those were all, like I said, he was a mastermind behind them. We need better leadership downstate that actually cares about us. And then he was also the one responsible for the 50-year tax break, tax incentive, whatever you want to call it, in 2019. He was the author behind that bill. So folks all around the state are rooting for me.
Yeah, they are.
But then we, because of the great work over at Citizens Action Coalition, we just found out that so those tax breaks, they were supposed to only, we were only supposed to lose like $1 million or so, I think roughly. Correct me if I'm wrong on that number. We just found out it's around $655 million the state has lost out on tax revenue. Imagine what the state could do with all of that money.
Feed our hungry children.
That's right. There's a whole slew of programs we could try to utilize that money to actually help people. You know what I mean? The last time I checked, when we run for these offices, we're supposed to be representing the people, not just shareholders and big corporations.
The reason why these data centers right now are so attractive to local government and things like that is because of things like that property tax bill last year.
Yes.
Another issue we don't want to get into is the property taxes, but that property tax bill from last year that did nothing to help homeowners, did everything to help businesses, are cutting the budgets of local governments so much.
Absolutely.
Here's a dollar.
Yep.
You want this dollar? You want this dollar? Oh, give me this tax abatement. Let me build and permits to build a data center.
Right.
They can't not take the money.
Right.
They have to have it.
Yes.
Because we've hurt them so badly. And they're willing to grasp at every single dollar that's dangled in front of their faces. So, I mean, like, it's like looking at that big picture. It's like we need to do the property tax reform so that we need to repeal what they did last year, go back in and make something that makes sense so that we have a better stable income for revenue income for our local governments and our schools and stuff. Offer our property tax situation for that, because that is the primary thing that's driving this.
Yeah. I to piggyback up with John, like I talk about that often on the campaign trail. So SB1, it certainly lowers the property taxes, but it siphons money away from schools and police departments and fire departments. And the study that they did, like for that bill, was based out of Carmel, where there's a bigger community and there's a lot of money in that area.
But around
so they're not going to be Carmel may not hurt, and even like where I'm at in the city of Valparaiso may not hurt. It's a higher income area, but any area outside of a few. Hobart, Michigan City, New Carlisle, where these data centers have went in, certainly the leadership there is looking at their budget and saying, hey, how are we going to fund our police department and our schools and our fire departments? Hey, there's this data center coming in. You know what I mean? They're going to offer me X amount of dollars, right? And if folks don't think it's coincidence that SB1 passed in 2025 and then HB 1007 and SB 423 and 424 passed the same year. I think you're dead wrong. It's not a conspiracy. I mean, they go together. You know what I mean? This was their plan.
Oh, yes.
So
yes. Yeah, and they've had a plan to, it's been kind of a layered plan all the way through. And I think it's, that's just what we're doing today, is continuing to try to work through these layers to make sense of this.
Absolutely.
And I think we are on a slippery slope. It's hard to say I'm here to oppose this if we teeter on not opposing. So I mean, I don't know where we go with that. I'm for a moratorium to oppose data centers and small modular reactors that, don't, destruct our rural community. And it's very scary to me as a business owner. We just signed another 5-year lease. It's like, what will we attract to this community if Monrovia is labeled as the home of data centers and warehouses, and because of the legislation that's in place and our local government, that's what has been set up for Monrovia. And that's very worrisome as as a local business owner, because especially a coffee shop, we're here to be a community hub. We want to see people gather and build community. And what is it going to be with warehouse traffic? A few employees at the data center, and otherwise we've just decimated this rural community. And it's not just Monrovia. And that's why we're here fighting this, hoping that if we progressively figure out how we move forward from what is going to happen with the Google data center, is it going to prevail all the way to the end? But if it does, how we'll live together and how we'll help other communities in Indiana be ready for this and have more knowledge so that we can work through this in a sensible way.
Right.
There's a lot to unpack with all that. I mean, I think the communities that I've worked with, and this community is no exception, but they have the question of why. Why are we bringing all these data centers? How many data centers do we actually need?
Great question.
The industry hasn't had a good answer for that. They vaguely point to it's the future, it's going to revolutionize our economy, or we're going to beat China, so on and so forth. But the problem with that is communities ask, what is in it for us? And when here in Morgan County, they gave all these tax abatements, gave them a pilot, payment of $1 million a year for 10 years in lieu of, payment in lieu of taxes. Even that's something that, communities, what's the benefit? At least back in the day when like a GM or a Ford came in, there was going to be some pollution issues, but they brought jobs.
Yeah.
And the problem the industry has right now is they don't have a true narrative. I know you said something about, AI. There's different shades of AI too.
Oh, definitely, yes.
So generative AI is what they're building all these data centers for. Once OpenAI came out back in late 2022, they came with this idea that we have to scale at all costs. If we continue to build data centers, have more and more compute, we're going to be able to train a model that's going to be so good that's going to take it from a large language model into artificial general intelligence. And from my view, and it's not just my view, but read Karen Howe's Empire of AI. You read that and you go, okay, they have an idea in their head that if they build as many data centers as possible, that eventually they're going to be able to create this artificial general intelligence, artificial super intelligence. It's going to be able to run our whole economy. We're not going to have any jobs. We'll figure that out later. But once they came out with that, the other big tech companies said, "Oh, that's the new next thing. We have to go towards that." And all of a sudden, we have developers. I mean, everybody. I mean, there's Allbirds, the shoe company's now an AI company. Like, tell me we're not in a bubble, right? But everybody is hitching their wagon onto this idea that these large language models, which I don't have the technical expertise, or you don't want to bore the audience here, but the idea that these models, which are frequently hallucinate, is going to change our economy. It has to a certain degree because we're dumping all this money into this data center build out. But study after study has shown when they have tried to replace humans with large language models, it has fallen flat. Because if you run a serious business, you can't rely on an AI that frequently hallucinates, meaning it's wrong, to replace human workers. When a human worker's wrong, guess what? You're on warning, we're going to fire you. What do you do with AI? And furthermore, I just saw this, this is just happening recently, but they're now coming to the conclusion that it's more expensive to pay AI to do a job than it is just to pay humans. So what is the point of all this? I guess is where I'm going at with this. And regardless of what developers say, it is not, people in communities are not buying what they're selling them. So, and last thing I'll say, I was there for the Monrovia when they did the rezone. It was a travesty what happened here. The community had 1 month. Google's lawyer had a town hall, which that was the first thing on anybody's radar. I think 2 weeks later they had it in front of the planning commission. A week later the commissioners passed it through, and being in that room and seeing people's disappointment in their elected officials. I thought we elected you to protect us, and they did the exact same, the exact opposite thing. We are seeing that across the state, and what we're seeing which is really heartening for somebody who's been doing this for 17 years, going, what's going to get us together? This has brought us together. The only good thing about these fights is communities are putting aside their differences and saying, we have a common opponent, and we're gonna fight it. So and it's opening people's eyes to what is wrong with our state house, what is wrong with our local governments. And I don't blame voters, I don't blame citizens. I love my Hoosiers, but like the stuff that really impacts your life happens at your local area or the state house, especially with our issues. 95% of what happens with utility stuff happens at the state house, not at the White House.
Right.
And I also think that now would be a good time to talk about, you were talking about jobs. There was something so impactful the other day. It said, when immigrants take our jobs, it's stealing. When AI takes our jobs, it's progress.
Yeah, I work in IT. I work in IT for my company, and I've worked in IT for my company for 26 years now. And we've used data centers pretty consistently for a long time. when we got rid of servers out of our local offices and moved them all to data centers and everything is centrally managed. That's not what we're talking about here today. That's a high pipe. All it is storage, and this is something completely different. This is what you're talking about, the generative AI. And you wonder sometimes, did these people ever watch The Matrix or The Terminator or anything like that? It just didn't we learn our lesson from these dystopian movies? But apparently not. So, but anyway, when they come in and they say, we're going to bring all these jobs to your community, and I'm looking at them like, seriously? Because there's high-paying jobs to your community. I'm like, no. With the internet the way it is, as long as you have good internet service, high-quality, high-speed internet service, anywhere on this planet, you will have those high-paying jobs where somebody can sit as a server administrator and manage the stuff around the globe. But guess where we don't have good broadband internet? Indiana. So basically the people sitting here in Monrovia that are going to be working in that, depending upon the size, I saw one this morning, I don't remember where it was going, it was another Amazon data center that they just announced yesterday. But they're going to have 250 jobs for the community in this gigantic data center. It's a $7 billion data center, and they're going to have 250 jobs there. Okay, those are the people that are going to go in and make sure that the HVAC system's working and make sure that building maintenance is working. You're going to have some people that go in, and if a drive fails, they pull one drive and put the other drive, the next, switch drives or switch whatever hardware that's going on. It's 250 people. It's not, and they're medium paying jobs. They're not the $250,000 a year jobs that we're going to put in other countries. I mean, we can put them anywhere on the globe. So,
and just the irony of according to big tech CEOs, we're doing this again to eventually replace us.
Yeah.
So we're building these data centers to eventually, and I don't think that's true. Again, what we talked about with large language models, the hallucination issue, but they're sure trying, and that's what's keeping, in my view, what's keeping the desire from Wall Street. They're looking at this going, this technology is going to cover everybody's jobs, right? Cool. Is it going to? They want to continue to push this technology, but again, it's showing that that's not necessarily happening. And we ran into my boss did actually. Ran into a data center developer, and he had to ask him 3 times. But the data center developer said, and he was more of a traditional type of data center. How many people are employed on your site? And he said, nobody. It's all remote. So. And I've been to a smaller data center, a traditional data center in Hammond. 3-hour tour. I saw one guy pass the security guards. That was it. So if it's not, and Amazon had some a job fair. I can't remember when that was, but they had like 400 people show up for, I believe, 80 jobs. So that's good. Hire people locally, but the fact is most people aren't qualified in the state of Indiana to do this kind of work. And that goes back to, we were talking about this before, where the labor is going to come from.
Right.
They're going to be local, or are they going to be out of state?
Right.
There's good reporting out there. I think the New York Times did a piece last year where they highlighted some local, or not local, but workers. That's all they did for 9 months, 10 months out of the year was just travel to each site building. So.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, I know that when we're serving coffee, because we want to have a safe space and serve everyone, they're not from around here. I mean, because they come in here for coffee and we ask them where they're from, and it's not from around here. And also in Monrovia, we're not even getting like employee tax, like state tax, nothing, because they are incorporated out of Delaware.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
like, it is just an atrocity. And so I think that we have to continue our opposition and figuring this out.
Yeah, I think there's stuff that you can do right now as well. And that's something we kind of mentioned a little bit ago. So this hits on all levels: city, county, and state. But if you're in a city or a county, or if you're a leader in one of those places, you definitely should be looking at some kind of ordinance that protects your citizens. That's something that in Valparaiso that we just put on the floor. Where these data centers can go in, you know what I mean? If they can go in by a neighborhood, if they can go in next to a school, that kind of thing. We need laws that are going to actually protect our citizens. Some counties have adopted a moratorium. That kind of stuff can actually happen, but those things need to get on the floor before a data center comes to your neighborhood. And we definitely need to get rid of these NDAs, like with these big projects specifically and data centers specifically. There's no way that we have to have accountability and transparency, and you just can't have that with these NDAs. But on the state level, so I talked about Soliday and that tax incentive in 2019. When he gave that tax break to the data centers, if he was thinking about his constituents, as a person that's a union rep, I've been in the mill for 14 years, have been a union representative for 12. I negotiate with my company constantly. If we're going to give something up in that manner, you're going to get something in return. You don't just give away everything and get nothing. You know what I mean? So why weren't there some protections put in? If you're going to file to get these tax breaks or tax incentive, you should 100% be required to make sure that these things don't go in next to neighborhoods and schools, that there are good, high-paying, quality jobs, union jobs. Could have been an RBO or a PLA attached to that.
The windmills are up, going up now as we speak. The solar is just starting to go in. People are very, very upset about all that. But when you're saying, okay, they're supposed to be bringing jobs and stuff for even the installation, all these people that are coming in to install this stuff are out of state. There are a few people.
Well, not even from the U.S.
There are a few people,
Yes.
but mostly coming in from out of state. So when these data centers are being built, where are the construction workers coming from that are building this? And then the second thing, and maybe we could use this as a segue into the next, like into another topic, but when you're talking about the labor's organized labor being very pro installation, pro construction of new data centers. Several of them are very, very much in favor of it.
Yes.
So when you're talking about that, it's like, why are they not saying, hey, we don't have any sort of legislation requiring closed loop water systems, which the one in New Carlisle, which we'll talk about here shortly, or I want to talk about shortly.
Yeah, absolutely.
The one in New Carlisle it does not have a closed loop water system. It just pulls the water out of the ground.
Right.
Okay. So if you required them to put in a closed loop water system via legislation, okay, that would produce more labor jobs.
Yes.
Because then you would have the plumbers and the HVAC contractors and stuff who are union that would provide more jobs.
Yeah. I agree.
So on one hand, you've got to provide, you've got to force them to use more local labor. We could do that through legislation.
We're farm ground and
I understand.
Yeah.
But but when I'm saying labor, you could get labor to listen and be, hey, put the brakes on this until you start looking at this. But using more local labor and requiring a little bit more responsible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
But that's
System.
where that slippery slope is, though.
So sorry, go ahead.
I just wonder what that slippery slope is. Like when we start, if they did a closed loop and they were then employing a certain amount of people, then do we give them the pass for the tax abatements, for still not understanding how much water we're using, for the forever destruction of farm ground. I mean, you see what I mean? It is such a slippery slope.
But the other thing is,
you're right.
But the other thing is like, if you require them to spend millions more on a chiller plant, okay, on a water chiller plant, we're not requiring it now. That's why, Indiana's not requiring it. We're going to go dump this in here. If you require them to spend millions of dollars more, they're going to slow down.
Yeah. Well, and to piggyback off of that, man, it was these. So labor. You mentioned labor. I have seen labor most recently on a podcast. One of the trade union leaders. I'm not in a trade union. I'm United Steelworkers. I work directly for U.S. Steel, and it's the trade union specifically that are very, very pro data center. But I think they're less pro data center and more pro the work, because most of the time the trade unions, their work is temporary. That's just how their work goes. So. I think they'd be happy with whatever work comes in. I think as the Democratic Party here in this state, we need to start thinking a little more outside the box. What else can we bring in business-wise that would give the trade unions and just regular people jobs that aren't data centers as a substitute? Because right now the Republicans, specifically Ed Soliday, and all of the Republicans that have voted for this legislation, they're bringing in these data centers, and there are at least some jobs. You know what I mean? So I know that the way that the trade unions are looking at it, like, hey, someone's going to build these. So yeah, we're if we can get those jobs, we're going to take them, and we're going to make sure our workers are paid, and we're going to do quality, safe work like we always do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I do have a question on that, and I love that you're a union guy, because I have so been wanting to talk to a union person. Okay. So we went to a Democratic training 3 months ago or so, and it was at a labor union thing. And during lunch, the union steward got up and kind of introduced himself and looked out at the crowd and said, "You know what unions care about? And the only thing unions care about? Jobs." And I'm like, okay, I get that. So my question is, jobs at what cost? I mean, and I really want union laborers to answer that. Like, and I think of, I'll go back to a documentary I watched about Red Pill, Blue Pill, and it's about the men's movement. And I watched that, and I didn't know what I'd be getting into, but it talked a lot about how men are taken for granted from the moment they're born. Like, if we think about women and children off the ship first, you might be the first to go into the military. So your life seems kind of expendable from the moment you're here, because you're supposed to be taking care of someone else. And men, we know by this study that they did, they are willing to take the dangerous jobs. So, and I think it said like 86% of workforce accidents are men. Right. Or workforce fatalities are men. And that's because men will sign up to take the jobs that, because you're providers. But my question in all reality is, like, at what point are we going to start at the foundation, and jobs at what cost? Jobs at the destruction of rural life, our air quality, our water quality, all these unknowns. So jobs at what cost, Union? I mean, like,
turning us into a desert.
Yeah. And I think we have to ask those serious questions. Like, at what cost are we going to basically end our existence?
Yeah, so yeah, to somewhat answer that, I'm definitely not going to speak for all trade unions by any means, but like I was saying, these data centers, they're coming in anyways, right? You know, so they want the work that's going to be there. I don't know how much. Maybe there are a few union leaders that are really fighting for the data centers to come in. I've not seen a whole lot of that specifically, but if they're going to be here, they want that work. And I fully understand what you're saying. It was something that I've seen happen in, I believe, White County. Don't quote me on the exact county, but I believe it's White County. they did something with solar where they said you can only have so much renewable energy in this area. So there was going to still be solar panels, and a lot of people in the rural areas don't like the solar panels. They don't like it taking up their farmland. But there could be some maybe regulation like that with the data centers. Maybe there can only be one in each county or something. To where there's not a bunch, popping up. But when it's built with, safe, quality, high-paid labor. But I don't know how many unions are actually like, hey, we love these data centers, but if they're gonna be built, they don't want them built by people from New Mexico that are flown in and paid half the wage. They want to build them themselves. And I fully understand what you're saying.
Like a conviction. I mean,
I was at the training you were at that you referenced before, and they had banners up. Do you remember the banners?
Yeah, and they had stickers.
And stickers and stuff about building the data centers.
Yeah.
And I got the car. Were you there? It was down in Indy somewhere. But anyway, so I took the guy's car, the guy that spoke to us, and I emailed him, and I never got a response back. Mm-hmm. So I emailed him with the questions that we just posed here. Yeah. So,
but I think the answer for the Democratic Party, though, like I said, these data centers are not popular. They don't seem to be good, especially with the laws the way that they're written. Everybody's utility bills are skyrocketing. Everybody
they're not doing what's promised.
Right. They're not, and everybody's worried about if they're going to go into their neighborhood and bring down the value of their home, or what kind of environmental issues. You know what I mean? Like there's no regulation. And that's where I'm going to get back to what I was saying. We need some kind of regulation to protect people. And if you don't have that in your city, county, or state, you better get it before it comes. That is something like even at Hobart, they did a decent job of guaranteeing union labor and good high paying jobs. When I talked to some folks over there, it's all about that SB1 thing, right? These cities are losing money. They're going to get a bunch of money from this data center that's going to go in. But if you look into it, the deal that was made with NIPSCO was done well before anything was finalized. Mike Braun, our governor, promised that these data centers were going to pay for their own utilities and their own utility costs, I should say, and that certainly isn't happening. And I don't believe it's going to happen right now. The way the laws are written, we are going to continue to pay their way. I give this. I talk about this often. If you were to build a garage detached from your house, are you going to pay for the power that goes to it, or are your neighbors? No, of course you're going to pay for the power. You know what I mean? But right now, that's not the way it works with data centers. They come in, and all of the power that they require, we take care of, which is just, it's wrong. It doesn't make sense. I don't care if you're on the left or the right. This is not a divisive issue. Most of the regular citizens are on the same page.
But something you said, and I just want to clarify this, because when I get in front of my opponent, which is generally at Farm Bureau legislative updates, because he won't come out and debate me in public.
Right.
But so when people get up and they say SB1 is cutting funding from local governments, he is always quick to say, oh no, they're getting more funding. But it's a decrease to your increase is what he calls it. So what I shot back at him is this. This is the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation property tax deal. Mm-hmm. So you write the check for the swimming pool expecting this bonus. And this is what the local governments have made their deals, their loans and stuff, expecting this. And now instead of getting that Christmas bonus, they're getting a Jelly of the Month Club. Mm-hmm. And so by getting that Jelly of the Month Club now, all of the stuff that of their financial commitments that they have made is now not happening. Mm-hmm. So the Jelly of the Month Club is technically an increase because you didn't have it before, but it wasn't what you were expecting.
Right. Right.
So I just want to clarify that, because one thing I am finding, especially in when we're talking about closed loop water systems and how much water is used and all the rest of this, one thing I'm finding is there is huge discrepancy, and if you are incorrect in what you are saying, they will shoot back and make you look like you don't know what you're talking about. And I've seen this more than once. more than once and
Yeah.
talking with local officials and stuff.
Yeah.
So you guys want to move into the water issue?
I was going to hit on one more real quick.
Go ahead, please.
So I think it's really important when people hit the election booth, when they go to vote in November, do your research prior. Find out where your local officials stand on data centers and every other issue, and find out where the candidates that are running against them are. Doesn't matter. Shouldn't matter the party. You know what I mean? Find out where they stand on the issues. If they're actually going to fight for regular people, if they're going to fight for some regulation or a moratorium or whatever it might be, make some educated decisions on who you're voting for. Right now, we have too many people in this state that vote straight ticket when maybe there's at least one or two Democrats on that list that they would vote for. And we really, really need people to kind of open their eyes to what's going on all around the state. And your vote truly does matter. Okay, It truly does matter. Tiffany Stoner is running for state rep right now. She lost her last election by 64 votes. 64 votes. Like, your vote matters. And my city of Valparaiso, we had a city councilwoman, Barb Domer. She won her race by 4 votes. 4 votes. So if you don't think that your vote matters, it certainly does. And these local and state races matter. To me, in my opinion, they matter way more. You have a much more say in what's going on. People really need to start to pay attention to these local and state races so we can get good people in office and
Amen.
take back our state and our country.
Amen.
And then I'm a Marine Corps veteran and an Afghanistan War veteran. Yeah, I've saw real combat. I've been to a bunch of third world countries that had multiple deployments when I was in. There are people that die for the right to vote, and sadly, a lot of us in this country just piss that right away and don't like we really do have a say. I mentioned the numbers before. Please get out there, vote your hearts, and vote for people that are going to fight for you.
Yeah. So, well, to segue into the water issue. So, a lot has been talked about closed loop. A lot of has been talked of versus. Well, I can't really say open loop because there's not a loop. And a lot of has been talked about closed loop. In fact, if you go through Farm Bureau's their legislative book, the one line that they have in there about data centers is we support closed loop systems. That's it. Nothing about the water usage and things like that. And then when we start talking about the water usage, how much water usage will water loss will come out of a system of a coolant system for a data center. The numbers are all over the map, and it's confused me a lot. And when I met you, Carrie, down there at the convention a couple weeks ago, and Stan Diamond. When I talked with Stan, I called him and we had a nice long conversation because I didn't know where the discrepancy was in the numbers that I know, having worked in HVAC. The discrepancy in the numbers of the water loss that I know from HVAC versus the numbers he had, and we figured it out. And the discrepancy is there, and so basically, what a closed loop system is. If you go to Facebook pages and Facebook chats and everything else, people don't understand what a closed loop system is. Okay, a closed loop system is basically you take the heat from processors, you run it to a water chiller, and you return it. It's one closed loop, and I drew that on this thing right here. It's one closed loop. Okay, there are 2 types of chillers you can use. You can use an air-cooled chiller, or you can use a water-cooled chiller. An air-cooled chiller loses no water whatsoever. Okay, however, an air-cooled chiller is greatly limited in its size. Okay, a ton of cooling is 12,000 BTU. An air-cooled chiller will only cool down to 230 tons. All right, a water-cooled chiller can cool 6,000 up to 6,000 tons. Okay, but a water-cooled chiller cools the refrigerant with water. So you got a water cooled by refrigerant, and the refrigerant's cooled by water. And that's on the second drawing. So that water is cooled in what's called a cooling tower. And the cooling tower mists this water down, and you lose so much water in that second loop.
Right.
And the amount of water you lose is about what you lose in some fountains. So like public fountains, blowing water up in there. It's negligible. Kind of. Okay. 6,000 tons is going to lose like 150,000 gallons of water a day. Okay. It's still not what New Carlisle uses in 4 million gallons of water, of groundwater a day.
Right.
Okay. So, I mean, that's what, like 1/25 of the water is what you lose, but you still do lose water. So it's like, so if I'm looking at 150,000 gallons a day versus when they're telling me it's like we're losing 50 million gallons a day, I'm like, okay, where's the discrepancy? So when Stan and I were talking, what we discovered was that Stan, the people that Stan, and maybe you can help me with this too, it's the electrical generation. It's not in the data center. It's over here at the electrical plant. And the water that it takes at the electrical plant to cool the electrical generation, that's where the discrepancy is. They are losing a lot more water at that electrical generation plant. And when you add it all together, now you're up to millions of gallons that they're losing a day. Am I right?
There's a lot to unpack there again. Because you hear the idea of a closed loop system has been brought to the fore about 9 months in. Like for the last 9 months is when they finally started talking about this. And every developer, it's closed loops, closed loops, closed loop. That's because people are very upset and very concerned about their water usage, right?
Right.
So that's become the topic du jour with developers. The issue, and there might be one that's truly closed looped out there. I don't, as you mentioned, air cooled versus water cooled. They will say that, like Meta in Lebanon. You look at their fact sheet about their data center. We're going to be responsible stewards of the water closed loop system. Well, they just come to find out they're going to be using up to 8 million gallons a day of water. So that's the problem. We talk about like what kind of information's out there on social media. The problem is the developers can't get their story straight, right? So that is part of the problem there. So, and I'll have to find it, but I do remember, reading something about how the GPUs, not the CPUs, but GPUs, they run so hot that a truly closed loop system is going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible at this point. So, but then, yes, we don't talk about, and this has been, hasn't been reported as much, but how much water usage at the other end. A natural gas plant can use 10 million gallons a day of water. SMRs, which are theoretical at this point, again, there was a study that came out last year that said they could use up to 165 million gallons of water just for one SMR. And that's water that's coming from, you have to have a lake, a river. You're not going to be pulling that out of the ground, of course. But that's still water that goes through the system. If an SMR is similar to a traditional nuclear plant, that's a lot of water gets evaporated out. France is having issues with their nuclear fleet because the water's too hot or the water's too low. They can't get the water to go through. If it's too hot, they just have to shut the power plants down. So that is the danger, and I would say the media and the public hasn't caught on to the idea yet that yes, there's a certain amount of water that's used at the data center. Who knows how much that is, because they won't tell us until they file for something. And then there's also the water that comes out of the power generation side. And it is different because it's not municipal water, but it's still water that's coming out of our system. And I'll never forget our executive director and our lawyer went to DC Cook up on Lake Michigan, in Michigan. And they were taking their tour, and there was a guy there. His whole job, I guess either him or some other people, but their job was to scoop the fish out of, there was an intake valve, and they were scooping the fish. And the tour guide said, You know, the EPA always dings us about all the fish that we kill, but they don't talk about all the water, you know, all the fish that were spawned because of the hot water going back into the system. So that's the ecological issue that
The boiling water that we okay.
So anyway, so the water issue, I mean, to me, I like the idea of saying you have to have a closed loop, but what does that actually mean? And the last thing I'll say, I was just at Data Center Alley a few weeks ago in Virginia. It's my third trip out there. This time I had a chance to actually talk to some neighbors in Sterling, Virginia. They have a off-grid data center, a Vantage data center, 150 yards away from their front door. On bad days, they can hear the noise going through their house. But I talked with he's a retired journalist. He worked for Voice of America, so he's a reliable witness, I suppose. But I asked him, I said, did they come and talk to you all about, you know, getting permission, or did they reach out to the community? He said, yeah, they invited us to a brewery, which I thought was interesting. But they ended up talking with him, and he said what they told us in that meeting was completely different than what they actually said they were going to do. It was 6 times bigger than what they said it was going to be, and then they didn't say anything about having off-grid power. So that's part of the reason why the noise is coming. But my point in saying that is, you know, always trust but verify when it comes to developers. And the problem is, and I've been in enough of those rooms where developers will stand up and promise all these things, and next thing you know, you're getting a completely different project. Or I'll use New Carlisle as an example. We're not going to mess with the 10 acres of wetlands. Well, guess what?
They're drained.
Yeah. Or we're only going to do 13 buildings. Now it's 26 and expansion. They're talking about doing another 13 up there. So, and I think, you know, last thing I'll say about this, but, you know, we talked about it a little bit earlier. We have allowed a handful of companies and a handful of tech gazillionaires with seemingly no accountability, you know, extraordinarily wealthy and powerful people to dictate the terms of our society. And that's a problem.
Yes.
Why do the unions, why are they chasing those jobs? Because that's where the capital is.
Right.
The number one driver of GDP right now, as of last year, and I think August, it's spending on AI and data centers. And until we say, hey, collectively, do we actually need all these things? And if we don't, let's break this bubble. Let's stop pretending like this technology is this thing that it's not. And let's actually claw back some of that power and say, what is good for our communities? Right. So off my soapbox, but
Well,
You're supposed to be on your soapbox.
yeah. Well, man, there should definitely be studies done. You know what I mean? Whether it's done via moratorium, or if there's not a moratorium, like, there definitely should be some studies done by independent agencies about how they're affecting places here in Indiana, across the country. At bare minimum, your city or county should be very much looking into how specifically the one that might go into their area is going to affect them. But we should be doing studies all over the country independently to try to figure out, like what he was saying, how many of these data centers do we actually need? Because of course these big corporations are going to say, yeah, we need as many of them as possible. And with there's multiple states that have laws like ours, you know what I mean, that they're just extremely pro data center, pro big tech, pro utility, you name it, and they don't care about, you know, how it's going to affect our communities, because most likely they don't live here. So
I just got to piggyback on that. People say, or have they done an environmental study before they start building? They're not doing that, and of course they don't do all in that with a lot of different industry, but. How do we know what the impacts are if we haven't studied it?
Yes.
And why should we just trust me, bro? We're going to build this thing. It's going to be fine. We got the connects to this and that. Citizens Energy, which I think they might be involved with the one down here, Monrovia. They just keep saying, hey, yes. And it's like, how much water is that going to take? We've got 5 projects essentially coming out of 4 or 5 projects now. But that is the idea of moratorium. The moratorium is not a fix in and of itself. The gold standard that I've seen from communities is we're going to put a 6-month, 12-month, 2-year, some bans out there, but that's going to give us as elected officials the time to form a committee, and we're going to have 4 or 5 people from the community.
Yeah.
Regular people at the table.
Right.
You know, if you're not at the table, you're lunch, right? So
Right. Absolutely.
that's the idea, not just. And we're dealing with this in Indianapolis right now. They just came out with this very, very weak, prescriptive, not restrictive ordinance, and they just said, "Hey, this is what we came up with." And as a fan of good governance, like we need to have meaningful public engagement in these conversations. And
Yes.
that's what a moratorium affords us to do.
Right.
You'd mentioned was it Lebanon that came out with the drawing of a closed loop system? The thing with that is that this is what I was talking about when coming into this topic, was that the information that is coming out is either half truth or whatever. It's not the full truth. So when they showed this closed loop system with an air cooled chiller, that's what was on. I've seen it. Okay, that's what they showed. That's fine. But it doesn't have the tonnage. That unit doesn't have the capacity to do what that data center is going to do. It's going to, and that's where, they are going to need 8 million gallons. Okay, that's where that comes in, is because now they're not using that system. They're using the water-cooled system. And by putting that out in the public, that was not being genuinely honest. And then what they submit to the county councils and the county commissioners to get their approval with their water usage and stuff. The one down in Franklin Township, I think they kind of showed that, because they were going to pull that out of Indianapolis city water, the coolant for that, not put in a closed loop system. They were just going to pull it straight out of the Indianapolis city water. Okay, that one was very not genuine in the numbers that they submitted to the council for approval. And I think that's kind of where a lot of that opposition came up, and I think that was Google, was it? Maybe
Franklin Township.
Franklin Township in Marion County. That they stopped that one for now.
Yeah, you know why?
What?
Because they came to Morgan County. Because as soon as Johnson County, that was the whole deal. As soon as Johnson, they just kept. And the other thing too is like, once they start and the fish are biting there, you keep going back to that same sweet spot. So we know that they're just going to keep expanding and expanding and expanding.
Yeah.
And they continue to do this with lack of information for us. And we are living in a time where all day long we are fed disinformation. And as community members and stewards of the government of we the people, we should have a seat at the table for what is happening. And they're just, this in Monrovia, it doesn't just, this is not just a data center fight. And that's what's so unfair about this. Like, we're just common people who have stood up and said, okay, I can't take any more of this. But we all don't even really know what we're fighting. Because first we're opposing a data center. And now the next thing this community has to oppose is the big power atrocity that's coming in to consume 400 more acres of farm ground. And we know that the Project Louie for the data center that they called Project Louie because they wouldn't say it was Google forever. And the AES project that they claim they've tried to claim publicly is going to benefit all of us. That same project was also called Project Louie, or is called Project Louie. And we just got confirmation because we've been asking the question. I keep presenting the question. We know what Morgan County's projected growth is. So what is the projected power need for Monrovia with Google and without Google?
Well,
and so the answer is they just brought a letter the other day to one of the opposers for the power, and it plainly and in fact says that no, Monrovia does not need that power. It is only for their one big customer. So then we talk about this is constitutionally wrong. So we can't do this. We've got to fight this. This is not okay.
So like what I know, 6 months or so ago, there was an article that came out that showed that said that 50% of all power used in Indiana was being used by data centers. That was 6 months ago. I'm sure it's way over that now.
It was misreported. Just FYI.
Oh no, I
That's anticipated.
Right.
Which is even more frightening because just FYI, we saw that and we're like, that they screwed up. But
they're under or over?
no, that's projected.
Okay.
That's projected.
All right.
They misrepresented that.
Okay. Well, the projections that my opponent said last year in 2025 at one of these legislative updates was that within a decade, so now we're at 9 years, the projected increase in power generation was thought to be 10 times what we were currently using in 2025. Okay, and that was all by data centers. All the data centers were going to increase by that. I know that New Carlisle, or what I've seen with New Carlisle is said to be using, or maybe it's when they're up to full capacity, but New Carlisle is going to be using the power of 60% of all households in the state. That one data center. If that's what we're talking, we can't windmill and solar panel ourselves out of this. So that's why they're arguing for the SMRs.
Yeah, but they're building natural gas plants.
Yes.
For this. So the couple things there. Yeah, New Carlisle's 2.2 gigawatts, 2,200 megawatts. Put that number in perspective. Peak demand in Indianapolis is about 2,800 megawatts. So for one facility, almost as much power as Indianapolis. Down the way in Hobart, 2.4 gigawatts, 1,200 megawatts here. That adds up very, very quickly, puts stress on the system. And again, how do we power that? SMRs, I started in 2009. It was 10 years away when I started. It's 10 years away now. Continues. I mean, we'll see. The nuclear regulatory regulators at the federal level just said, don't worry about the regulations. We'll just allow you to push this through, which if that happens, if an SMR gets built in the next 5 years, run as far away from that facility as possible, I would say. But by and large, what the utilities are filing for AES, they're filing to build more natural gas plants, which we don't talk about climate a whole lot as far as a state, but adding more natural gas or fossil gas or methane gas, whatever you want to call that, onto the grid at a time when we are having, we just had record tornadoes that went through here. It's like we're continuing to dig the climate hole. And the fact is, I mean, we only have so much natural gas out of the Permian Basin that we can take out. And a lot of that natural gas, it's gone back and forth. A lot of that natural gas has exited our country in the form of liquefied natural gas that gets shipped to other places. So what that's going to do, long story short, when it's a supply and demand issue, the more natural gas that we use, whether it's through the utilities or on-site generation, that's going to drive up everybody's bills as well. So,
well,
yeah.
and
Yes.
not just that, but the two bills that your opponent filed last year on SMRs, that forces the development of SMR technology onto our electric bills.
correct.
100%
Yes.
between the two bills.
And that's the thing that is most important to focus on for our communities.
Yes.
Because I mean, I have heard so many people say, well, I'm not really that afraid of nuclear power. And I'm like, well, are you afraid to pay that bill? Are you afraid to be on the hook for the expense of that? Because that's what is on our
Right.
The R&D, the research and development to develop it. Because like you said, we aren't 5 years, I've heard 15 to 20 years is what they're looking at. So if we're looking at 15 to 20 years to develop that. Now, on the flip side of that, we've made, and I'm a technology nerd, so we made such advances in nuclear fusion technology. SMRs are taking uranium atom and splitting it. Fusion technology is the power of the sun, taking hydrogen atoms and fusing them together. We made such advancements in the last 3 years that they're now anticipating the commercially available fusion technology will be commercially available in 5 years, 5 to 10 years. Okay, so by the time this 15 to 20 year technology is ready to be commercially available to us, we will have already outdated that technology by 5 to 10 years. And we're still on the hook for paying all that money to develop a technology that will be obsolete when it is rolled out.
I would just say fusion's always been 10 years away too. But anyway.
No, but the thing is, we were able to hold a plasma field for minutes instead of seconds.
I get it. I mean, I'm just a little skeptical, and I'm also always concerned. You know, if y'all want to trust the utility company, go right ahead, but I don't.
No, thank you.
So that's the issue.
No, thank you.
And just real quick on the legislation that was passed, they got a law passed. It was called construction work in progress for those SMRs. So whether they build the power plant or not, they finish it. We have to pay for it.
Yes.
Then they went back last year. That was the pre-construction costs. So if AES even thinks about filing for an SMR, we're going to have to pay for it, whether they pursue it or not.
Right.
And just this is on our SMR website, but NewScale, that was a was the big front runner on SMRs. Had a deal out in Idaho. It was going to be the best thing since sliced bread. They started building it in 2015 for initially $2.6 billion. It went up to 9.3. This is all theoretical, and they pulled the plug. And it's so for 400 megawatts of power. So when somebody says I'm a big booster and nuclear, it's who's going to pay for it?
Yes.
We're going to pay for it. Grandma and Grandpa Hoosier are going to have to pay for it, and that's absolutely wrong.
Yes.
And the most expensive way to boil water is nuclear, and I think we can hopefully figure out better ways and to do that. We do have the off-the-shelf technology. We do have, but data centers with the advent of data centers is really derailed some of that.
The other thing about the data centers or the SMRs that scares me, that really truly scares me, is that you said, and I agree with you, if we're going to build them, they need to go on Lake Michigan, they need to go on the Ohio River, they need to go on large bodies of water. Okay, but what they're talking about, and especially up in my district, Delaware County, that there's one commissioner that wants to put them in our cornfields. And I don't know where they get the water to cool them in the cornfields. And he can't answer that question. But he's all for it. He wants them in our cornfields. And this is something that around the state, if they're going to build them, they're going to be putting them in your cornfields and and where there's no water to cool them. There's a reason that you can use a small modular nuclear reactor in a submarine. It's sitting in the freaking ocean. So
it's also paid by Uncle Sam. So.
Yes, exactly. No, I know.
I think, this just goes to a broader. I was just out in Park County a couple of weeks ago, and I had to bite my tongue a little bit, but I was dutifully listening in the back, and I heard there was 2 county commissioners. I don't know what happened to the third, but just the amount of misinformation coming from them. They didn't know that they could pass a moratorium. They were talking about how we're going to do off-grid power, and finally sir, you have something to say? And I was like, yeah, let me explain some things. But the idea, right now it's gas turbines, and saying that we should have gas turbines rather than off-grid. And I'm like, I just came from Virginia, and I would not want that to happen to my worst enemy, living next to them. So same thing with SMR, same thing with all this. We see this, the nuclear industry, all these industries do a fantastic job. They have really big budgets to pump out the propaganda that says it's going to be the best thing since sliced bread. The reality is, every time, just like with the NewScale project, it falls flat of expectations. And, so always, as Ronald Reagan said, trust and verify, I guess.
For sure. I've not looked into this much, but both of you guys might have a better idea. I've heard in Europe that they actually build their data centers underground. Is there any truth to that? Is that a thing, or is that,
I think the scale, or it's going to be a lot different
Yeah.
than,
Less valid than what they're doing.
and, you know, I hear stories about there's a new startup, they want to do floating data centers. I think it's backed by Palantir.
China puts them under.
Well, Elon wants to
underwater.
support them in space.
It's, you know, let's
Yeah, let's let Elon put him in space. Let's
Probably
let
not.
Elon Musk do Starlink.
Yeah, but no, I think there's ways that you can do it, and we've seen, you know, the traditional type of data centers that, well, for one, we haven't explored efficiencies in this technology.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't want to do that because it's a goal. It's a rush. When we talk about the rush to get to AGI, it's the 4 big companies who are backing OpenAI and Anthropic and whoever can get there first. But you look at what happened with those open source models, where they spent. There's a tracker out there. It has an AI made money at, and it shows how much money the hyperscalers have spent. 200 billion here, 200 billion there. DeepSeek has spent $600 million so far, and their models are just as good as the frontier models for the big tech companies. And the way they do that, because they're not building data centers the way we are here in China. They're looking at efficiencies and how do we make this more efficient. And the other thing that I'm excited about, at least, is the idea, and I did it with my phone. You can download an open source model and put it on your laptop or on your phone and run it independent of the cloud. And that way, your bill might go up a little bit more because you're using more energy, but you're not giving data to, you know, you're sequestered from that.
Right.
And ultimately, you know, these guys, these AI tech companies are not doing this out of the kindness of their heart. They're not, they have grand visions of what they think the world's supposed to be like. But at the end of the day, they still have to answer to their investors, and they are trying to monetize this, and it's failing pretty spectacularly.
Well, I think it will be interesting at the end of all this. I think if we're on a crystal ball, what the Republicans are pushing so hard, I think, is what's going to get them out of office.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I think that, you know, they are pushing for this so hard, and people are waking up, and that is going to be their demise. And I do find hope in that, like you do, Bryce, that this has brought people together. It is encouraging people to become more civically engaged and start to understand what is happening and why it's happening. But we can't stop naming why. I mean, it is the Republican Party that is writing this legislation and passing it, and you know, supporting. I mean, they are just taking the power away from everyone at every level. Like Senate Bill 277, Peggy Mayfield was a yay for that, and that's just basically destroying our farm ground. And you know, she gives a nod to that, and it's like, why?
Yeah, and one thing I think you're definitely right. It's something that deals with the people. That the people, but when you go out, I don't remember who it was. There's another legislative candidate we were chatting with the other day on our chat. But talk to them about data centers. Talk to just a general person about data centers. Well, what's a data center? And it's like they don't know. People don't know. And it's like, even after explaining what a data center is, how a data center is affecting them, how it's affecting their water and their electric bills and everything else, I just don't care. And they're just going to go in and they're going to hit the straight ticket Republican Party and walk out on election day.
I don't know.
And
I mean, I don't feel that in this community.
Well,
at all.
But this wasn't in a community where the data centers are greatly affecting them.
Yeah.
I know up in my community, I'm going to have an issue because we don't have data centers up there right now that are really affecting us. But we need to get people engaged because we're next. If you don't have one, coming soon to a theater near you.
Well, and I do want to tell this story because this is very important. So a gentleman from this area that we have do some work for us was working for us in our home about a year and a half ago. And he also did the power here at the new emergency center that we have here. And that new center has new bright lights all around it. And of course, our rural community is pretty upset by that. They don't like these bright lights coming into their rural home. And so the guy working for us said, it's just progress. It's part of it. They can deal with it. It is what it is.
All the time.
Okay. Well, this is the best example of why we stand with our community, because if it hasn't happened to you yet, soon it will. So fast forward about a year, and we are all in an uproar over this new power that they have 69 routes proposed to come through Monrovia, Morgan County. So Michael and Spencer and I are going to this meeting. And when I walk in, I was like, well, that voice sounds familiar. Guess what? The same person who said, it's just progress, it is what it is, deal with it, that power is coming through both of his farms potentially. He no longer thinks, just deal with it.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. 100%.
That's a really good point. The latest trip I went out to Virginia, I was reminded from a longtime activist out there. She's been fighting data centers there since 2014. So, and you know, the second time I went last year, to rewind a little bit, but in my head, we were on a guided tour, and I'm like, this cannot happen in Indiana. I know it can happen in Indiana, but I don't want it to happen in Indiana. And it all started with one data center back in the 90s, and now they got 200 data centers, right, in a compact area. But she reminded me that it's not just about the data centers, it's about all of the infrastructure.
Yes.
High tension power lines, gas pipelines, power plants, everything else. And you know, you can go out. I was just
road construction that these rural communities are not used to. What are we?
The
8 years.
Construction people that come in, like a new Carlisle, they were filling up all the hotel rooms, or they were building RV parks for them, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Long-time renters getting kicked out, that sort of thing. So that's something to consider. It's not, and I'll just say that, you know, I knocked on doors for 10 years. Across the state of Indiana, a lot of people literally don't think about things until it's on their doorstep.
Right.
Exactly.
Yes.
So just give it some time. I'm sure it'll happen pretty soon.
Yes.
But, no, I see the sign there. So folks can find out more about our work at citact.org, and we do have a data center page. We're going to update that. We just updated our map. We have an interactive map, and I forgot to say this earlier, but we're tracking about 60 projects. About 20 have been stopped across Indiana. Unfortunately, not everywhere. We're up to 20 moratoriums, 18 county level moratoriums. 14 of those have come since the beginning of this year. And we've got 2 municipalities. We've got more coming every week. We've got 2 outright bans. That's Marshall County and Cass County. They decided, and we'll see how that sticks for the next session. But folks can also sign up for our email alerts, and very important, especially when it comes to the State House session. We'll be there. We're there every day, and we're the days that we need to be there, fighting for Hoosiers. And it's very, very important to know exactly what's going on at the State House, because that is where the action happens. And once that ball starts bouncing, it's really tough to follow that bouncing ball, but we will do our best to keep everybody updated. And of course, if anybody wants to become a member of CAC, we are citizen funded. It takes a little from a lot of people, and we go down to the State House. We've got 50,000 people back behind us, 100,000, 200,000. That gives us more strength and more power to fight for the people. So thanks for having me today.
Yeah. No, right. Real quick, she mentioned the progress thing. I constantly hear that from folks on the right, you know, saying, well, the way you talk about the data centers, you know, it's you must not be about progress. There's always going to be a little pain in progress. And I go, whoa, it may be a little pain, but like what we're seeing is communities all across the state just being devastated. That's not pain. That's not progress either. You know what I mean? Like, but we can change laws if we actually elect the right officials and get the right people downstate. to make the laws actually benefit regular people. I mean, people really need to start paying attention and getting out there and voting for people that are actually going to have your best interest. So I'm Ryan Kominakis. I'm from Valparaiso. That's the Couts, Valparaiso, Union Township, Morgan Township areas, and House District 4. If you guys want to find me, I've got a website, ryankominakis.com, and then all my social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok are Ryan Kominakis for Indiana. If you guys want to check out my page, I'd appreciate it. If you're from my area, please make sure you get out and vote for me. And then on my website, you certainly can find a link to donate through Act Blue, or you can send a check to Ryan Kominakis for Indiana, P.O. Box 105 in Valparaiso 46384. So, thank you.
Awesome. What are we doing here? We're closing out. Well, let's see. I will close with, I am Carrie Syczylo again. I am going to fight like hell to for local control, for a moratorium on data centers, to bring back good governance to people. And I do want to talk a minute about the state legislature. I go to the state legislature along with all of you guys so that we know what's going on. And I want to invite Morgan, Johnson, and Monroe to entertain the idea of going to the State House yourself. So all people are welcome at the State House. That is our house. We pay those bills, and you should find yourself there so that you yourself can see what's going on, and you can see and hear the abuse of power and the atrocity that continues to happen to people. And I want to close this out with, I get to be around a lot of people, and I love all people. I love community. I love to see people come together. But one of the things that I really do struggle with when I'm talking about to parties, Republican and Democrat, every time, and I've started tracking it, I've got a logger in my phone because I do want to show the truth. Every time I could talk to a Republican, the first thing out of their mouth is about money, fiscally responsible, finances. That is different when I speak to Democrats. The Democrats that I have been afforded to hang around with in the last year are talking about the bills that we can create to help people. And the Republicans have been in power for 24 years here in our great Hoosier state. And we cannot do anything to make amend to a bill or to create better bills that work for people until we flip
Supermajority.
it in 2026 in November. So we cannot provide any relief to anyone, no matter how hard we try, how loud we bark, how much we bitch. We cannot provide that relief for people for affordability so that we can have gas that we can afford, so that maybe we could increase our population that the Republicans are so damn worried about. If we could have an affordable life, maybe we would want to increase our family size. Maybe we would have the time to spend with our families. But right now we don't because we have an affordability crisis. But Democrats, independents, nobody can help our people, can help our communities until we can flip the power and we can start creating bills that actually work for people. And so that is going to require that we all get civically engaged, and it's not a matter of you should vote. And I mean, I don't think that it's the time to beat people down about why they're not voting or what they should be doing. We need to be encouraging them to get to the polls and reminding them that our voice is our value, and government is to be run by the people. It is not to be run for power. And that's the foundation we've got to get back to. Where you can find me. Well, you can always find me at Farm House Brew, but my website is carriecareshd60.com. Today's been a bit of a heavy topic, but I am all about a path forward and a positive path forward, and I think we can find that by working together. So find me at carriecareshd60.com. Donate to me monetarily. Also, I need volunteers. I need to fill the bus. We need to get to a lot of people. But yeah, carriecareshd60.com. I'm going to be your voice. Rural people deserve good things.
I live on my grandparents' farm. All right, they bought this farm 75 years ago. And my family came to East Central Indiana almost 200 years ago. We came in the 1830s. I have a lot of deep roots. I have a lot of love and love the legacy of living there. I also have a grandson now. He just turned 2. He's the bright red-haired child of our lives that keeps us all kinds of happy and everything. He's the light of our lives right now. And I want him to be able to live here on our farm. I want him to be able to inherit the farm that his great-great-grandparents purchased. But if we don't preserve what we have, he's not going to have that ability. He's not going to have that chance. Last year, in another bill related to healthcare, there was a state senator who it was in front of a committee, and what he said in this committee was, if you live in a rural community, you have to deal with the consequences of living in that rural community. Well, I'm sorry. Having water, not having water, having high electric bills, having property tax bills that are just outstanding every year and growing, he's not going to have that. It's not a consequence to live in a rural community in Indiana and not being able to have health care and other things like that. I want that for him. And any other grandchildren we have, I want them to have that. And that's why I'm running. That's why I'm running for office. The data centers are just one piece of it. And legacy means something, and it's worth preserving. So that's why I'm running. I'm John Bartlett, the other John Bartlett, because there is another John Bartlett in the legislature right now. It's from from the Indy metro area. But I'm John Bartlett from East Central Indiana. You can find me at my website's bartlettforindiana.org, and that's FOR, not the number 4, but bartlettforindiana.org. You can find me on social media, and primarily on Facebook and some Instagram. But you can find me there. I have an ActBlue account. I have. I need money badly. I'm running up against. My opponent is a realtor, and his family are multi-millionaire farmers, so he's got the money that I don't have, and I think I do have a good shot at him this year because he's made a lot of people mad in our district. So anything you can send my way, any volunteers up in the area. I would love to embrace you and come out and help me knock doors, march in parades, whatever you want to do. So I thank you for your support.
Okay, more. She mentioned the supermajority thing. So right now, there 100 representatives, right, in the state house. It's 70 to 30 at the moment. We just have to flip 4 seats to end the supermajority. To get quorum, you have to be 67. So if we get 4, we flip it. So right now, the Republicans can show up at the state house, and not a single Democrat has to even show up, and they can just pass through whatever the hell they want. There shouldn't be that kind of unlimited power to any branch of government. That's just insanity. There is some real momentum going right now, and we have some really great candidates, definitely right here in this room, but just across the state. So really try to pay attention to who you can elect and who's going to have your back, and do your research. Find out, like she was saying, that someone actually has your values. You know what I mean? Someone has shared values that's actually going to represent you. But it's really important that we flip that supermajority so we at least have a say and a seat at the table. So.
Because you may not do politics, but politics will do you.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Tornado damage? No, that's where the Ricky Tom's house.
Yeah.
For Google.
That Lieutenant's house has been on?
Yeah.
Oh.
So as we were driving through initially, one of you made the comment that you thought we were looking at tornado damage. Who was that?
I made that comment.
Yeah, you.
Is it not crazy that this progress that the Republicans are pushing looks like tornado damage?
Yeah.
It's insane. Irony.
It's insane.
And here's the other. I mean, this is very scary. But just to put this in perspective, Morgan County just decided that they would. Google will lease this from Morgan County. Yeah. So what kind of burden does that put on Morgan County if something like a tornado were to come through here that we just dealt with last week?
Oh yeah, just
Within
the region as well.
This is what is happening to Morgan County. I mean, it is atrocity after atrocity after atrocity.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna be responsible for this mess our county is, and Google's just gonna lease it. You know why they did that? For $5 million up front. For Google to give us $5 million. $5 million is chump change to Google for the destruction of our community.
Okay, so let me ask you this: if this is leased, who still owns it? Who owns it?
Morgan County now.
Okay, so Morgan County's not going to have any property taxes on. They're not charging themselves property taxes on it. So you've lost all that property tax revenue.
No clue. I don't think they have a clue.
I mean, if Morgan County is the deed is on Morgan County.
Yeah, they've just decided that they're going to lease it. That Google is now going to lease it from Morgan County.
So all those other homes up there that I was just talking about with the tornado.
That wasn't tornado.
I know. I said looked like tornado damage.
Right.
All of those houses are now owned by Morgan County.
Probably.
Okay.
I mean, I can't verify that yet, but I can verify that Google is leasing this data center from Morgan County now for $5 million.
For how many years? Per year?
For like 20 or 25 years.
$5 million is all they're getting over 20 years?
$5 million.
For 20 years?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And look what Monrovia gets.
Right.
Hell, they leased the damn toll road for what, $3.5 billion.
Yeah.
Oh, and
For 75 years.
to add to the atrocity, Monrovia as a municipality, town, thought we would try to annex this so that we could capture some of the tax benefit, if there is one.
Okay.
But keeping in mind, Google has a 50-year tax abatement, 100% on anything they put in here. Okay, but keep that in mind. But, so we tried to annex, or we're going to annex. We're thinking we're going to annex. And I don't have an opinion one way or another on that yet. I haven't done a deep enough dive on it.
Gotcha.
So because of that, Morgan County in Martinsville hurried up and said, no, we're going to TIF all that.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have our town in Morgan County fighting over hurrying up over who's going to get there first. Is it going to be an annexation or is it going to be a TIF? And the TIF basically is if Monrovia is at this tax bracket, say $25,000, we'll just call it $25,000. Once the TIF comes in for like 20 or 25 years, Monrovia is capped at that $25,000, and the rest of that tax money benefit goes to a slush fund. That's the Economic Development Commission.
Yeah.
The ER something. I don't get that word.
Edit Mark.
Yeah.
But let me throw this at you. If Monrovia annexes this, now they're going to be running water lines
Yeah.
from Monrovia out here.
Yeah.
So whatever water that they need will be coming from Monrovia's.
I don't know.
City water.
I don't know that that's true because I think they have already worked out their water situation. But what is true, what I can verify, is that Google is now leasing this property.
Right.
Paying $5 million, all for either an annexation or a TIF. And either way, Monrovia has been screwed from bottom to top and top to bottom.
Can I just say this? Let me say, get us the hell in office and get them out so we can stop this shit. Pardon
Yeah.
the language.
Obviously, this isn't my area, but she's telling me that there's not a lot of local labor that's being used to actually work here, and that really needs to change. The three of us can change laws to make the lives of regular people better, and then none of the utility laws have changed. Anytime one of these things goes in, your utility rates are going to go up. Everything with these data centers is a rubber stamp, goes right to the IORC, and it gets reflected on our utility bills, the consumers. We need folks in office that are actually going to fight for you, not just for the utility companies, data centers, you name it, whatever big corporation and the is of the moment. You know what I mean? Folks that are actually going to fight for you. A lot of people thought that these laws would change in this last 2026 session because the utility rates were starting to go up, and we've seen next to nothing happen.
They got worse.
Yeah, they just had a new rate
Yep.
increase.
Yep. This week they had a new rate
Yeah.
increase.
Yeah.
And I mean, that the issue is that they have the super majority, like what Ryan talked about before. They have a super majority. They don't have to do anything to let us in and have even a voice, because we can't walk out and stop session.
We can't help right
Because I mean, they can get quorum with just Republicans.
Yep.
And 4 more seats. I'd like it to be 50 more seats. I'd like it to be 20 more seats. But I mean, they don't have the ability, or I'm sorry, they have the ability to just go through and pass whatever they want, line their own
now.
pockets,
Ramrod.
line their own pockets, whatever they want, and they don't care about us.
And the other thing that we have to keep in perspective as Hoosiers is Google is getting a 50-year tax abatement, 100% tax abatement on anything they put in there. And our state has paid to date, I believe it's $659 million.
Well, they haven't paid, so
Well-
it's lost tax revenue.
Lost
So
tax revenue.
We were expected from these tax incentives, however you word it, 1 million is what was expected. And the group Citizens Action Coalition, they're a great consumer advocacy group. You guys should follow them. But they put out the numbers. It's up to $655 million our state has lost in tax revenue that we could utilize for regular citizens. We don't need laws in place like the one that Ed Soliday passed in 2019 that gave these data centers the tax break in the first place. Once again, we need laws that actually help regular citizens, not ones that hurt us.
Does that count the fact that when we pay our electric bills, we pay 7% sales tax on our electric bills? They are exempt from sales tax on any electricity that they buy. They don't pay a dime
Right.
in sales tax. Does that count that?
Does that include that number?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Not sure.
But the data centers don't pay a cent in sales tax on the electricity that they use. And there was billions that we lost in revenue to that.
And then 655 million is just the start. That's where they're at right now. These data
That's
centers
not a
are
final number.
continuing to go in, and these corporate handouts, they're not helping us, man. They're not helping regular citizens. People need to open their eyes and start paying attention to these local and state level offices. We need leaders downstate that actually care about us.
That what I was talking about before with the senator that said that you got to live with the consequences of living rural. And basically, what that keyed into my mind is they just don't give a crap about any of us living out here in rural
Well,
areas.
and what
They don't give a crap.
I need to step in here and remind everyone that the government is for all of us people, for all of its people, whether you're rural, black, tan, or brown, white,
Urban.
man, woman, urban, city. The government is supposed to work for all people. And we have proven to ourselves that the government that we have in power right now at the local, state, and federal level is not working for people. It's working for power. And when we talk about the Republicans claiming that they're so fiscally responsible, then explain to us how we've lost $655 million to date so far in data center tax potential revenue. Tell us how we have 5 to 18 million. There's still a discrepancy there that the federal government owes us for torturing citizens at the Speedway Slammer. So all of these things, this money could be put to help people, to make government work for people when we get in office. But in the current state, we can't do shit to help people because we don't have enough power. So we have got to get our citizens, our rural people, to take value in their voice and help us get to end this atrocity.
Well, when you're talking about being fiscally responsible, way off topic, but there is a proposal by my opponent, and he's traveling the state telling everybody about it. He's got a proposal to eliminate property tax and replace it with a sales tax on service. Well, when he goes through his plan, we're currently bringing in $10 billion a year in property tax. When his plan goes in, we'd be bringing in 13 to 15 billion in revenue a year statewide. Okay. That is a 30 to 50% tax increase.
Mm-hmm.
So don't give me the fiscally responsible.
I know. Yeah. Don't.
That's bull.
Because it doesn't add up. Fiscally responsible to what? Your one job as the government, you're failing at. So fiscally responsible at what point?
Right.
When it's harmful to people, you're fiscally responsible. When it helps people, you're not fiscally responsible. And that's what's up.
Or making sure that rural hospitals stay open.
Yeah, it definitely seems as if most of the representatives downstate, they care more about these big corporations and data centers and anybody else that might donate to them. But when it comes to their constituents, regular people in their districts back home, in their communities, they get forgotten about. If that wasn't the case, these laws would have changed in the last session. They became real unpopular while they were in session, and I said, next to no change. We need better leadership downstate.
And that wasn't because there wasn't people advocating against these bills. Because, I mean, 100%. I've watched many Democrats get up there and demand transparency, demand accountability for the people. And then time after time, we just hear Republicans just yay, pass. And all these bills that they're passing are harmful to our citizens, to our communities.
Yes. Yeah, there were plenty of amendments that the Democrats tried to get passed to make the lives of regular Hoosiers better, and every single one of them got shot down by the Republicans. And there were also a lot of good bills that never even got to see the floor.
Right.
They went to committee and just died there.
Dead.
You know, so Representative Randy Novak, he tried to make it to where when these data centers go in, that they're forced to use union labor or local labor through a project labor agreement. If they're going to come in anyways, there better be local workers that are going to provide safe, quality, and high-paid jobs. To me, that's just like common sense, people first approach. We need more legislators like that downstate, and not ones that are going to ramrod in legislation that just screws over regular people. Too many of these legislators are corporate sellouts.
And you guys, you know, I mean, like, seriously, it's taken some of us longer to wake up, but we are awake. We are seeing what's happening to us. We know that the power overreach is happening at the top. And we know that the Republicans in power right now don't have the balls to protect us. And that's what's up.
Yeah.
They don't, because they're scared of what may happen to them if they actually vote their conscience. And so when you are working scared and you're working afraid, by God, you are not working for people. So we're not afraid. We're not afraid to stand up and call out the atrocities, to be convicted in our purpose. And our purpose is to govern for people.
So I'm a union representative on the shop floor at work. I work at U.S. Steel Gary Works up in the region. I've been fighting for workers for over a decade, whether it's getting guys on the floor the work schedule they want, or saving someone's job that shouldn't have been fired. I want to continue that kind of fight downstate. And the folks in my section have elected me to 3 terms as a section leader because they know that I have the fight to take on the company, to stand up to power and actually be able to negotiate and get real results. As a Democrat, even if we do flip the supermajority, we will still be in the minority. I'm definitely someone that can work across the aisle to get things done. That's what we need. We need someone, I think we need more regular people with integrity that just actually care about their neighborhood so we can take care of the big issues, these economic issues, like our utility bills, and all kinds of affordability issues across the state.
And actually fixing our property taxes,
Yeah.
And I don't know that this necessarily needs to be, I mean, Spencer, you can cut out whatever you want, but there is something that I would like for you all to do a deep dive on.
Yeah.
There was a guy that came to speak to me at the coffee shop this week, and he talked about a study done out of Purdue that is an economic study that basically it's the cost of services. And it's this big study about who uses the more services. And they have it broken down in 3 categories: farming, business, residential. And this study, it can be found, I'll send you the link, but that is the point of reference that the legislation is using. And there's so much to deep dive there. There's so many loose ends, so much variation that I have sent Michelle some of the diagrams that I've put together, but that's where they're coming up with their prototype. And there is a lot to unpack there. Because like they talk about in rural places, they want the number to be under 1. And it's always that residents use like 1.5 of services. Businesses use like 0.50. Farming, I'm just throwing out numbers here, it might be like 0.10. But what they're not taking into effect is the amount of road conditions that the tractors and the rural folks put on roads. So that's not in their equation. There's so much out of the equation in the equation, but this is where they're getting their shit from.
Right.
And we can deep dive this, and we can find better legislation, and we can make it make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it has to have a deep dive. Because that's where they're getting their, and it's the,
Send it.
but I will send it. And you can even, it's a national federal website.
Okay.
You can put your city in, you can start making graphs, and you can start tweaking it to see, because basically their goal is to get every sector at 1.
Yes. Yeah.
And they can't do it, but it can be done because I can figure out how it can be done. You can figure out how it can be done, and you can figure out how it can be done. But they're not willing to do it because they'd rather make it seem like if we build a new subdivision here in Monrovia, that would just cost our services to go way up. When they themselves in the study say that's not true. There's a lot of variables that go with that.
Yeah.
But we like to blame it on the residents and say we don't want growth. We don't want more homes because we want this.